This morning, we're continuing our series in the book of James as we talk about whole life Christianity. If you're new this morning, James is one of the most practical and pastoral letters in the New Testament. It's written by James, the half-brother of Jesus and a leader in the early church. It was sent to scattered believers facing pressure and cultural pull. If Paul in his letters gives us the theology of faith, James gives us the practice of that faith. His message is simply this: faith that works is faith that works. And so today we'll be in James chapter 3, verses 1 through 18. And as James talks about the practice of faith, he's going to turn our attention uniquely to the tongue, to the words that we speak. Because what we say reveals a lot about the kind of life that we live and the wisdom that rules our lives. This morning, we're going to see James talk about 5 things as it relates to the tongue. The first is the weight of the tongue. Second is the power of the tongue. Third is the destruction of the tongue. Fourth is the pride of the tongue. And finally, fifth is the fruit of the tongue. Again, that's the weight, the power, the destruction, the pride, and the fruit of the tongue. I want to begin with this, though. We are entering into the greatest time of the year. The holidays are upon us. That means Fall Fest next week. That means a great turkey dinner a few weeks after that. And even better, the ham at Christmas dinner after that. But even more than those, what makes this season the best is football. I love a good football game. And if you follow football, you know that oftentimes the difference between a good team and a great team and a bad team is the coach on that team. If you've ever played sports, you've had a coach before. And coaches tend to fall into one of 3 categories. Coaches that don't correct at all. Coaches that think every single moment is a moment to correct. And the coach that operates in wisdom and they know the right time to correct and the right thing to correct. If you have a coach that never corrects its players, they will never get any better. If you have a coach that overly corrects and every single moment is a moment of correction, it will just discourage the player. But if you have a wise coach that speaks the right word at the right time about the right thing, you just see the players begin to elevate. We get to James chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. Something similar is going on, except James is kind of recognizing that in this congregation, there's a bunch of people that are over-correctors. The text says this beginning in verse 1. James says, "Not many of you should become teachers." When James uses this word teachers in this passage, he's most likely not talking about what happens here in the pulpit on a Sunday morning, but it's more that idea of being a master of morals, being a judge, someone that sees someone's life and is eager to correct them. And James says, not many of you should be folks that correct others. For you know that we who correct, we that teach, we that judge, we will be judged with even greater strictness. For we all stumble in many ways. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, that person is actually a perfect man. His judgments are true and correct. James is warning the church in this moment that there's a lot of people that are eager to pass judgment on their brothers and sisters. There's a lot of people that are easily quick to correct their brothers and sisters. And James warns them not to rush into this role of teaching others. Because James reminds them, when you're quick to step into the seat of correction, the amount of judgment and correction is actually multiplied back to you. In fact, this echoes the words of Jesus. When Jesus tells a large crowd that's caught someone in sin, Jesus says, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." However, church, if we are honest with ourselves, we all feel the pull to judge the people around us. We all feel the pull to correct people around us. Husbands are oftentimes wanting to correct their wives about everything they find wrong in the house. Wives can be quick to want to correct their husbands and nag them about leaving the toothbrush out on the counter. Parents can be harsh and quick to correct their kids, oftentimes discouraging them. And kids can jump to judgment on their parents that their parents actually don't know what they are talking about. But church, the moment that we jump to correction, the moment that we jump to judge the other, it invites that same measure of correction and judgment back on ourselves. When Jesus talks about a similar concept, he says, hey, it's not a bad idea to want to get the speck out of your brother's eye, but before you do that, worry about yourself. Get the massive log out of your own eye. Calvin, who we'll be quoting a lot this morning because he had a lot of great things to say about this, he says this: when it comes to this passage, I take masters not to be those who performed a public duty in the church, what's happening right now, but such as took upon them the right of passing judgment upon others. For such reprovers sought to be accounted as masters of morals. Or it is, as it were, an innate disease in us to seek reputation by blaming those around us. Though few excel in wisdom, yet all intrude quickly and indiscriminately into the office of masters, judges, teachers, correctors. And few of these people are influenced by the right feeling, for hypocrisy and ambition stimulate them, and not a care for the salvation of their brothers. So church, I want to encourage you, be slow to judge. Be slow to correct. Because to the degree we judge and correct others, that gets measured back to us. And so as you reflect on this message this week, tomorrow, you might pray, Lord, help me to be slow to correct. Help me to be patient. That's point number one, the judgments of the tongue. Point number two, the power of the tongue. After warning the church to pump the brakes on correction, James now shifts to explain why. The reason why is because the tongue holds unbelievable power. Picking up in verse 3, you see, if we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide the entire body of the horse as well. But also look at the ships, the massive Titanic. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they're actually guided by a very small rudder. And wherever that rudder points, the ship goes. James says, so also is the tongue. It is a small part of your body, but it boasts of great things. Here, James is using two simple images: a bit in the mouth of a big old strong horse and a small rudder on the Titanic. And says these small pieces can move a large animal in a large ship, and in the same way, your small tongue can set and steer the course and the direction of your life. James is saying this because he wants the church to feel the disproportionate power the tongue has over the rest of your body. The tongue is small, but it'll move the entire course of your life. It'll move the course of your families, your churches, the stock market, and even the nations. It reminds me of my house. I have this really old upright piano. Having a hard time getting rid of it. I should get one of these little things right here. This thing is heavy. And anytime I move it, there's at least 2 or 3 stairs it has to be lifted down and off of. And so it takes me calling 3 or 4 of my strongest friends to come and to lift this piano. And man, it is hard, it is challenging, and it is difficult. But as soon as the stairs portion is done, there's just 4 little small wheels on the bottom of it. And an old grandma could push that piano all around an apartment. Same kind of thing is happening when James is talking about the power of our tongue, a small member of our body able to steer the whole course of our life and our communities. Calvin again says it this way. He says, a great part of true perfection is in the tongue, because the tongue exercises dominion over the whole of life. Church, don't dismiss the weight of James's words here. Because husbands, your words have the capacity to change the relational climate of your home. And wives, your words set the tone of honor and respect in the home. And parents, your words become your children's compass even after they are gone. So choose your words to one another carefully and wisely. On Tuesday, as you reflect on this, you might make your prayer, Lord, make me aware of the power of my words. And so that's point number 2, the power of the tongue. This is point number 3, the destruction of the tongue. James has warned us to be slow in judgment, mindful of the power of our words. Now he shifts to his strongest imagery yet. The tongue as a raging fire. He continues the second half of verse 5. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And don't be confused, church. The tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in his likeness. From the same mouth come blessing, but also cursing. My brothers and sisters, this ought not to be. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. James spares no language in this moment when he talks about the tongue. He calls it a fire, a world of unrighteousness, a restless evil, full of deadly poison, at one point staining the whole body. He wants the church to feel the danger that resides in our words. Words don't just sting for a moment, they can start a fire. It was less than a year ago that the Palisades fires happened. I worked for a church in Santa Monica, so we were just kind of right down the street from it. And this fire claimed 12 lives. burned 23,000 acres, caused an estimated $25 billion plus in damages. And all from one spark. One spark created the worst fire in LA's history. James says, and watch this, church, the tongue can do the same thing to your life. Not just burn a morning, not just ruin a day, not just wreck a year. It can set a fire to the entire course of your life. Church, hear this warning. Your tongue can torch your marriage. It can torch your relationships. It can torch your finances and leave you utterly burned out and alone. Watch what Matthew Henry says about this. He says, we are taught to dread an unruly tongue as one of the greatest and most pernicious evils. It is compared to a little fire, watch this, placed among a great deal of combustible matter. And there's all kinds of combustible matter around your life, which soon raises a flame and consumes everything before it. The traps into which people are sometimes led by the tongue are unbearable to themselves and utterly harmful to others. The lives of people and entire communities are often thrown into chaos and everything set ablaze by the words a person chooses. Church, hear this warning. If you want to burn down your marriage, if you want to burn down your friendships, if you want to burn down the entire course of your life, be careless with your words. Do not choose your words wisely. On Wednesday, you may pray, Lord, would you just guard my life from my own tongue? James wants the church to know the tongue has great destructive power. And then he continues in point 4 in the pride of the tongue. After warning the church against rash judgments and corrections and against careless speech, James now exposes the root beneath destructive words. It's the stuff that flows out of our heart. It's our pride, our jealousy, our selfish ambition. This is picking up in verse 13. Who is wise in understanding among you, church? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the quietness and the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy in your heart, if you have selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every single vile practice. James, again, is not letting off the gas in his use of using strong language, calling jealousy and selfish ambition earthly, unspiritual, demonic. Pride doesn't just create tension or make situations uncomfortable. It opens the door to every kind of chaos. Enter the classic movie Mean Girls. Regina George, as you're probably familiar with, leads through jealousy disguised as charm. She pretends to guide and help others, but she's really interested in self-promotion. The result? Whisper campaigns, fake unity, hidden rivalry. From the outside, it looks like leadership. But James would say, no, that's just selfish ambition, and it's creating chaos. In James, the context here is that people are rushing to correct the people around them, rushing to correct their wives, rushing to correct their husbands, rushing to correct their kids, rushing to correct the people in their community group. Not out of love, but out of envy, out of pride, out of a sense of self-promotion. They want to look wise, but James says if you're that kind of person, you're not wise. Again, Calvin says this is a very common thing. It's common for hypocrites to lift themselves up and show off by criticizing everyone else. So the meaning is this, church. Arrogant critics who freely excuse their own behavior while harshly judging others think they are very wise, but they are deeply, deeply wrong. For the Lord teaches his people something entirely different: to be humble and to be kind towards others. Church, before you correct the person sitting next to you, the person you share a bedroom with, a home with, a cubicle with, ask this question: what's fueling the correction that's about to come out of my mouth? Is this wisdom or is this pride? Jesus will say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So on Thursday, you may pray this: Lord, make me meek, not mouthy. This is the pride of the tongue. And this is the fifth and final point: the fruit of the tongue. After 4 warnings, the danger of overly correcting and quickly correcting people, the power of the tongue, its destructiveness, and the pride of it, James finally gives us a little bit of reprieve in the passage. He says the tongue isn't only able to destroy, the tongue is actually able to bear really great fruit in your home, great fruit in your church, great fruit in your community. This picks up in verse 17. He says, but the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to dialogue, conversation, and reason, full of mercy, salt, and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peaceful words by those who want to make peace. James now contrasts the warnings with a vision of spirit-shaped speech. Words that are pure, words that are peaceable, words that are gentle, reasonable, merciful, fruitful, impartial, sincere, and peace-producing. I want to occupy spaces with that kind of speech. I want to create spaces with that kind of speech. I want to receive words with that kind of speech. We've all been in these kind of awkward situations. Most likely when you're a kid, you go to your friend's house to play video games or whatnot. And when you walk in, for some reason or another, you can just feel the tension in the house. Mom and dad are kind of passive aggressive with each other. One of the parents is raising their voice to their kids. The kid is kind of disrespecting their parent, and you're trying to play Super Mario Bros. You're like, dude, this is awkward. Would love to be somewhere else right now. And then you've been in other homes where husband and wife are just sweet to each other, really patient with their kids. Their kids joyfully obey their parents. And you think to yourself, I could play Super Mario over here a lot more often. Church, Christian households, Christian churches, Christian friendships, Christian communities don't have to sound like the world. Our speech doesn't have to be harsh, sarcastic, or cutting. It can be marked by grace, by peace, by mercifulness, by reasonableness. Again, Calvin, talking about this passage, says, those who are wise according to God's will are kind. They are gentle. They are merciful. Yet, watch this, not in a way that hides sin or excuses it, but rather they actually seek to correct it, but peacefully and with moderation. Not every moment is a correcting moment. They do this so that the unity of a home, the unity of a church, the unity of a community is preserved. So church, this in no way removes the need for calm correction. Instead, those who want to be healers of sin must not act like executioners. Those who pursue peace are still careful to plant righteousness. They are not lazy or careless in promoting and encouraging good works, but they balance, watch this, they balance their zeal for righteousness with the seasoning of peace. So husbands, at home, you can speak in ways that are gentle, cherishing, and adoring of your wife. And wives, you can speak in ways that are honoring, respectful, and supportive of your husband. And parents, you can speak to your children with mercy, with grace, and with salt. On Friday, you may pray, Lord, make my words wise. And this brings us to the gospel. Church, the truth is this: we have failed on every account of what James is talking about here. We have rushed to judge and we have rushed to correct those in our homes, our church, and our communities. We have underestimated the power of our tongue and chosen our words carelessly. We have lit fires that have consumed at times our entire lives because of the words we've chosen. We've spoken out of jealousy. We've spoken out of selfish ambition, and we have failed to speak gently to those around us. But the good news that this morning we can repent, we can return, we can be forgiven, and by the Spirit's power transformed and changed more into the likeness of God.